Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله تعالى وأحسن الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار أما بعد. My dear respected brothers and sisters in Islam, as you sit here in this khutbah, you are all silent with your tongues. You are not speaking, I am speaking. But that doesn't mean that you are silent, because there are thoughts that are speaking in your mind. They may be thoughts related to something you need to do after salah. They may be thoughts related to what you're seeing. Maybe you think my shirt is very nice. You're wondering where I got it, etc. We are always speaking in our mind. Whether those are thoughts that just come up, maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspiring us with some thoughts as a blessing in our mind. For example, if you are driving down the road and you see a rainbow in the sky, and suddenly your mind is subhanallah, you're in awe of the beauty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the beauty of His creation. That's a blessing. That type of thought is a blessing. Or you may be driving on the same road and you pass by a car that's very, very nice, and you begin to have negative thoughts that why can't I have this car? What have I ever gotten in this life? Why is my situation always so bad? Why do other people have it and I don't have it? Thoughts from shaitan. So there's always self-talk. Talk in your mind, whether we realize it or not. And the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us is that those thoughts, they do affect our action. They do affect the way we look at things, the way we look at our relationships, the way we look at our life, and the way we look at even our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those thoughts matter. So in these few minutes that we have in the khutbah, my brothers and sisters, I would like to very briefly remind myself and you about what the Prophet ﷺ and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they have to say and they have to do with these type of thoughts. So we are talking today about positive thinking, optimism, looking at the brighter side of things. My brothers and sisters, if you have good thoughts, and again, some examples of good thoughts about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His names and attributes, how merciful He is, how loving He is, how aware He is, aware of your situation and my situation, about the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Prophet ﷺ said, talk about the blessings of Allah. Have conversations about them. The blessings of Allah, that, oh, I have health, alhamdulillah, how are you? Alhamdulillah, your family is fine. We're talking about the blessings of Allah. Hope in the hereafter. I can't wait to get to Jannah, inshallah, and meet this person and that person and see these things and experience these things that are promised to us in the Quran. Thoughts about hope in the hereafter and optimism. But negative thoughts, my brothers and sisters, when you have negative thoughts, the only outcome of a negative thought is a negative feeling. Anger, depression, stress. Those are the fruits, the rotten fruits of negative thinking. So if you have a lot of stress in your life, or you're always upset, and you're always going off on your family, someone in your family, your wife, your son, your daughter, Baba, son, oh, what is it? And you're snapping at them for no reason. Then you need to begin to think about what thoughts are going in your mind that may be causing that type of negative reaction. Now, brothers and sisters, when we have negative reaction, when we have negative thoughts, we are taught in the Quran and Sunnah to suppress them, to battle them, to push them back, in the same exact way that the Prophet ﷺ told us to hold our tongues. And he ﷺ said, "Man kana yu'minu billahi wal yawmil akhir falyaqul khayran aw liyasmut aw liyaskut," or kama qala sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That whoever believes in Allah in the last day, inshallah all of us, whoever has some iman, some faith, let him speak good, say something positive, or keep silent. Keep silent. So most of us, we understand this hadith as meaning for our tongue. Example, food is presented to you, and you eat it. Maybe your wife made it, maybe one of your hosts, you're invited to a party, and you eat it. It's not exactly tasty. So, rather than saying something dishonest, you keep silent. But to say that, oh, this is too salty, oh, this is too much this or that spice, keep silent. Because it hurts the feelings of the person who made it, maybe your wife. So in the same way, brothers and sisters, our thoughts, our speech, this is what we understand. This is what we must understand. Our thoughts, our speech to ourselves, and they have the same impact or similar impact as our tongue. So if you have a bad thought, don't vocalize it and don't act on it and make istighfar, push it away. But if you have a good thought, then you act on it. And in the same way, brothers and sisters, the Prophet ﷺ said, وَأَتْبِعْ السَّيِّئَةَ الْحَسَنَةَ تَمْحُهَا. Follow a bad deed with a good deed and it will erase it. So listen, if you have a bad thought that comes in your mind, you replace it with a good thought. I knew one brother who was studying with another brother, studying some subject. They were both studying the same subject. But the other brother was excelling much more than this brother. So this brother who was not being as successful in his studies, he was getting feelings of jealousy. Feelings of jealousy which come up maybe by nature, but it is to be suppressed. If we let it run amok, the jealousy, it's going to affect our iman, it's going to affect our relationships, it's going to give the burden, negative burden on our back. See, brothers and sisters, negative thoughts are like big weights on our back that we carry around. And there's no reason to carry those weights around. So, the brother told me that he began to have a jealousy feeling about this. But then he remembered these ahadith and these ayat about how we should suppress our negative thoughts. So what he did, he began to make dua by himself in his salah, in his sujood, for the success of that brother. That, oh Allah, make him benefit from the knowledge he's gaining, make him excel in what he's doing. See, you think it's very odd that you're feeling jealous of someone and then you make dua for that person to succeed. But wallahi, the brother told me that I forced myself to do it because I knew this was the only thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would take away my jealousy feelings. And this thing, he said, is exactly what happened. As soon as he began to make sincere dua in his sujood for his brother, he said all the feelings of jealousy, which were like weighing him down, they were like a weight in his heart, on his back, in his mind, they all just vanished. SubhanAllah. Replace the bad thought with the good thought. It takes some effort, some juhd, some struggle, internal, but you can do it. Jealousy can be removed from your life. Feelings of not having enough can be removed from your life. Feelings of frustration can be removed from your life if you just practice these lessons of positive thinking, my brothers and sisters. One of the sources of bad thoughts come from our closeness to the dunya and our being away from the thoughts of the hereafter. This dunya, brothers and sisters, is a big burden on our iman. It tells us that to pursue it. It tells us what we don't have. It tells us we need more. So some of our pious scholars, they thought a lot about this, and they used to write, our pious scholars used to really focus on this idea of iman and positive thinking. So he said, this is Abu Sulaiman, one of our pious predecessors, Al-fikru fi dunya hijab anil akhirah. Thought, like a lot of thinking, upon the dunya, upon the world, is a veil over the hereafter. When you're really focusing all your thought, all your mental energy, all your time thinking about the world, what do I have, what do I don't have, this job, that job, this money, that money, this bill, that bill. Yes, to an extent we have to do it, we live in the world. But to be fixated on these things at the expense of everything else, it becomes like a hijab, like a curtain between you and the akhirah. Then when people talk about Jannah, it doesn't faze you. Oh, that's nice. When people talk about the punishment or the day of judgment, things about the hereafter, it's not interesting to you. You're not affected by it. There's a hijab. And he says, and this type of thinking, when you're focused on the dunya, is a punishment for the people. Is a punishment for you, although we may not understand that, we may not know it. And then he said, thought upon the hereafter produces wisdom and life in the heart. وَتُحْيِي الْقَلْبِ. It gives life to the heart. And whoever looks to the world as his protector will come to accept its delusions. If you think this world is your only place, your only abode, the end all and be all, then you're going to accept its delusions in your mind. Whatever the world tells you, it will be stuck in your mind. Brothers and sisters, إِنَّ مِنْ حُسْنِ الْإِسْلَامِ الْمَرْءِ تَرْكَهُ مَا لَا يَعْنِيهِ. The Prophet ﷺ said, verily part of perfection in Islam is for a person to leave what does not concern him. Now we usually think of this hadith meaning that, don't get in other people's business, right? If something doesn't concern you, leave it alone. But we have to look at it in another way as well. That this dunya is like a speck in our life. Really. if we think about the akhirah and that it is everlasting, this dunya is like a speck in the life. Like the Prophet ﷺ said, his example is as a traveler. He's traveling from a long distance and he's going to a long distance. And he stops under the shade of a tree just for a little rest. And then he continues. So that space under that tree, under that shade, for that 5 or 10 minutes, that is the dunya. What came before is before we came to this world, and what goes after is once we're in the grave and beyond. So for us, me and you, brothers and sisters, to focus all of our thought and our energy and our emotion in this shade under the tree for 10 minutes is not advisable. It's not a smart thing to do. We have to look at where we are and where we are going, and this is part of retraining our thoughts so we can have the positive thinking that the Prophet ﷺ is teaching us about. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه يغفر لكم إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. Now, brothers and sisters, when we are talking about positive thinking, the number one thing we should focus on is the positive thinking towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Thinking good of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is critical to our iman and critical to our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, no matter what hal you are in, wallahi, no matter what situation you are in with yourself, how you perceive yourself, whether far or near to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whether sinful or not so sinful in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, no matter what state you perceive yourself in, Allah wants good for you. No matter what state, if you are a sinner, if you have done many, many bad deeds, if you consistently sin day and night, understand that Allah wants good for you. Allah loves you and He wants you to be in Jannah. That's what Allah loves. And if you understand that, in the midst of our sins, and our transgressions and our negligence, if you can understand that and fathom that even then Allah wants good for you, that is a revolution in your thinking, brothers and sisters, about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, about the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His rahmah, His forgiveness. Think about this, my brothers and sisters. You know the famous hadith about the man who killed 99 people, and he kept on going to the different scholars asking them, is there any forgiveness for me? And when he told them that, yeah, I killed 99 people, and they were like, you killed 99? Of course there's no forgiveness for you. And he killed that person, that scholar, until he came to a scholar who really understood the deen. And he really understood that even this murderer, who recently just committed another murder, and has been committing murder for all his life, still Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants good for him. Still Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves this person. So he told him, the scholar, knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves him and wants good for him, he told him, repent to Allah, and then proceed to this town where there are good people, and you'll be in a good environment that will hopefully take you away from the sin of murder that you're engaged in. So the man, as you know the story, famous from hadith, the man proceeded to that town. He was taking action. On the way he died. And so the angels came down and they disputed about whether he should be taken to the Jannah because he was on his way to try to reform himself, or whether he should be taken to the hellfire. And it is said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded them to measure the distance between the man in the bad town and the man in the good town. And if it was found that he was closer to the good town, then he would be forgiven and given Jannah. And if he was closer to the bad town, then he would be put in the hellfire. And it is said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He caused the earth to shrink so that the man was closer to the good town and he was forgiven. So, brothers and sisters, inshallah, none of you murdered 99 people. Inshallah, none of you murdered even one person. So, how much does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala want for you good? How much does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala love you? This is part of husnul dhan, positive thinking of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When any trial befalls you, and when any calamity befalls you in your family, in your health, in your wealth, in this dunya, the first thought you shouldn't have is, oh, Allah hates me. Allah doesn't want me to succeed. Allah wants to punish me. No, that is not the sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts hardship in the life of a believer who has some iman, even a little bit of iman in their heart, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts hardship in your life, it is to bring you closer to Him. And closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is where our success, our eternal success will be. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you and I to be successful. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you and I to be happy. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you and I to taste the iman in our heart and live a peaceful and tranquil life. And then have eternal bliss in Jannah. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants. And for us to convince ourselves of that by reading the ayat and the hadith and struggling with our thoughts is critical to being a believer. So brothers and sisters, this is what one of our scholars said when he said, هو حسن الظن بالله تعالى في الإجابة, that having good expectations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will answer you, will respond to you like your dua and others, that is critical to making dua. When you're raising your hands to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you expect that He wants good for you and He's going to answer you. So brothers and sisters, these are just a few thoughts about positive thinking for ourselves. And then on the ummah level, when we're talking about persecution and oppression that we see in the world, in Gaza, and with our Uyghur brothers and sisters, the Chinese government oppressing them, preventing them from practicing their religion because they say La ilaha illallah. When we see all these trials in the ummah, it's because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us as an ummah to get closer to Him. This is how we need to look at it. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب وأقم الصلاة.